Have you ever thought to yourself what the weirdest thing in the world is? Well, that's quite a broad statement. Book that I found actually not too long ago. I found it very captivating and interesting, but also bizarre. I think when we use the word strange, it can mean it's a very vague sentence, and I said sentence, it's a word. It's a very vague word that can make us feel or think a lot of things. A book called the Codex Seraphinianus was written in 1981, more like drawn, in the span of several years, by the artist Luigi Serafini. He said himself that the book is a depiction or a representation of when we were younger, reading things that we didn't quite understand because we didn't know how to read, so we just looked at the images of these unfamiliar objects. Think about the human anatomy, for example. There's a lot of strange structures that a kid might not even understand. Or a book about planets and space and electronics and these strange objects that seem so alien to a child that has rather no experience with those. The book almost replicates that sort of same feeling within this side of the book, and honestly, I'm all for that. There's a lot of flashy, bright, big images of drawings that have been put into this book. Not to mention, the elephant in the room is the language of this book. It is a completely fictional, made-up language that has no coherence whatsoever to the real world. However, there are patterns to it. In fact, the writer of the book himself intended this book to be untranslatable and not to be understood at all whatsoever. So good luck trying to find any sort of reasonable meaning within inside of this book, because chances are you're not going to. It acts as a sort of encyclopedia, and each section is divided up into its own themes. By chapter. For example, the plants section has strange alien looking plants to it. Sometimes these plants look like other things or have certain themes to them. While there's also fruits and vegetables as well with inedible objects attached to them, or they're in some sort of strange situation. There's other parts of the book also talking about geography, science, and I guess tutorials. I don't know if tutorials are the right word. However, there are certain parts of the book where you look at it and you can find lists and lists of these strange objects where it seems like no two of them are alike. I can't really give a description, only a description of the things that I know to myself and things that are actually coherent in the real world, mixed with incoherent things. You know, it goes into that subject of surrealism. Surrealism is essentially a mix in between the real world and abstract art, where it's sort of a mix in between, kind of like a dream. For example, there's a part in the book with lamps, which is a thing in the real world. However, there are these tiny little creatures that are ejected out of the lamp post, and don't even begin to ask me what the heck these things are, although they could be some sort of bacteria. Another one has these creatures that are rainbow, coming out of a rainbow with holes in it. There are also creatures with tools on them, like a key, a drill, and wheels. And there's also creatures in cages, creatures guarded behind spikes and ropes. And then sometimes there are just pages that don't even have anything at all. And there's also a page with fish with eyes, which honestly feels like a deliberate thing. It kind of reminds me of the weirdcore stuff. I always found this book fascinating. The way I actually found it out was an accident. I was looking through surreal art on the internet because I was curious about finding inspiration for my own artwork, because I'm an artist. I should probably show my art sometime. But one of the pages in particular was a couple having sex, turning into an alligator, and then the alligator walking off of the bed. And I thought to myself, what the hell is this? And so I clicked on it, and it was a link to an article about the Codex Seraphinianus. I also had realized that it was written in something that didn't look real, or it looked like an Asian language, at least. Other parts of this section has themes of legs, I guess, because this book really likes legs. It has some sort of leg fetish, I guess. Not to mention all of the strange structural buildings, landscapes, and devices and automobiles. Some of them are pretty intricate. For example, there's a lot of people in this world too, that the people seem to be the most normal thing out of this book, because even though some of the ways that they dress, they still look familiar enough that they could be people from this alternative dimension where in this world people live with this language instead of maybe English, or it's just a different world entirely, where I guess my brain is broken right now. I'm sorry. Probably my favorite section of the book is the science section of the book, where it talks about, I'm assuming it's talking about molecules and particles and atomic structural things. These are the building blocks of this universe. Imagine a universe where the laws of physics were different down to the way we think that's different, and every little behavior that makes us of the universe was different, and the way of the fundamental way that we discover knowledge is so different to us that there's no way of really knowing how to actually know how this universe would work. And a lot of it seems to be chemistry based as well, which I enjoy chemistry myself, but this is no chemistry that I've ever seen before, so I don't think I could really give you any advice for that, although it looks like there are some sort of math language. I say things a lot because these are things. What do we call things that we don't really have a name for? For example, this red structure with crazy ribbons and tubes and white balls of puffy balls, I guess. I don't know. A lot of the devices in this book are boats, vehicles such as cars that have wheels to them, but when you look at them, it looks like things that could actually exist or actually function. It looks like these things are intricately made, and it looks like that they could actually be used in some way, that they have some sort of purpose. And in this world, they most likely would have a purpose in whatever it is that they were. There's a section dedicated to eyes and just more eyes and human heads, so that's pretty cool, I guess. The last part I should mention about this book is there's even a section dedicated to individual cultures. It shows a being living in one of these structures or these houses, and it shows their lifestyle and I'm guessing how they live. And usually the house, the figure themselves have interconnected themes, so it looks like they could live in these places. Anyways, that's probably all that I'm gonna talk about for this video. There's about 400 pages of this book, but I have a bet for you guys. If this video gets to 100 likes, I will talk about this book again, because it's really interesting to me. I find it very fascinating, but there's just too much to go over in this one video because we'd be here for hours. I encourage you to look up this book yourself. There's actually only 5,000 copies of it ever made at one point, and hence the book cost about $500 to get, and that's why it's such an expensive book. Also, Luigi Serafini, the author of this book, he has a pretty amazing home where he has a lot of artifacts, and his house literally looks like it could be in this book. But that is all for this video at this point. I hope everyone enjoys, and check out my Discord. Have a good day, and I'll see you all in the next video. See ya.